Oh, well, hello, citizen of Disneyland. I didn't hear you come in. Brickey here. Today's adventure, looking back on 1 year ago today. It wasn't the happiest of times, but it's definitely times that we can all learn from. Today's adventure, looking back to 1 year ago today. In the bleak summer of 2020, all of our hopes were lifted when we learned that our precious Disneyland would reopen on Friday, July 17th, celebrate 65 years of Disneyland. Now, I'm not telling you anything that you don't know. That date would get canceled and the park would remain closed until Friday, April 30th, 2021, keeping our beloved park closed for over 440 days. But on the day before the failed opening back in summer of 2020, I paid a visit to the original site of Disneyland, the home of what was to be called the Mickey Mouse Park. And I recorded today's video as a reminder to keep our spirits high, to keep looking toward a better future, and hoping that somehow we could learn a valuable lesson from 2020. So I re-released today's video in hopes that it can remind us of just how far we all traveled to get back to tomorrow's celebration of Disneyland turning 66 and open to guests all around America, full of citizens of Disneyland celebrating inside the park. But as we got the news that Los Angeles County is now requiring people to wear masks indoors, the future of everything is up in the air. So I replayed today's video for two reasons. One, to look back at the journey that we have all traveled together, and two, to inspire anyone who has not gotten vaccinated. Please do so. Please do your part, not just for yourself, but for me and for all the other citizens of Disneyland. If we work together, we can keep the gates of Disneyland open and keep all of the good times going. I'll see you live inside the park tomorrow as I celebrate 66 years of Disneyland. Please enjoy today's video, a look back in the darkest days of being a fan of this place that we love so much, but an attempt to look forward to better days. The original title of this video was something that I say to my wife when I really want to drive home just how much she means to me. I tell her, I love you like I love Disneyland. And I want to share that with all of the citizens of Disneyland, that I love each and every one of you like I love this park. So let's bond together and keep our park open together forever. Just on the outskirts of Walt Disney Studios, getting ready to walk this sacred ground that somehow hasn't been claimed, even though LA has gone through many, many transformations and that highway originally wasn't there. Somehow this land is still vacant, but some of us still remember the dream that it unlocked. This is the home of the Mickey Mouse Park, the original location for Disneyland. There's a neighborhood that's been built around it, industry, Highway 5, the highway next to me that I'm sure you can hear, and a rooster. But somehow this land has stayed open. And it's amazing because everything else has grown up here, but this idea represents the beginning of Disneyland. Now, up and over my shoulder, behind me, is Griffith Park, where all of us hardcore Disneylanders know the story of Walt watching his daughters on the carousel thinking there's gotta be a better way. There's gotta be a way where we can do this for everyone in the family to have a good time. This land was that idea. An original, smaller, more charming, intimate park meets amusement park setting. Some of the early principles of this park would carry over to our beloved Disneyland, because it wasn't the idea that was bad, it was actually a problem with this land that we're on. The idea was good, the idea kept building. And Walt, like every other creative, and if you're a fellow creative you understand this, sometimes the fun and creativity is the challenge. And after mastering animation and making full-length featured films, Walt, like a lot of us, kind of got bored once the challenge was done. Walt was an entertainer, and in his entertainer's mind, he was envisioning a new form of family entertainment. When Disney, the company, started to take off, They purchased over 50 acres in Burbank, which now is the home to the animation studio, Walt Disney Studios, ABC, Hollywood Records. But it was this land out here where Walt loved his customers. His two greatest skill sets was storytelling and how he could feel so connected to his audience. People were always asking about doing a movie studio tour, touring the studio lot, which is pretty boring, and Walt knew it. So this would be a way where people could come to the studio, see where the magic is made, meet Mickey Mouse, and not only get to see the things that they love, but create new memories, new feelings, new emotions that they would remember forever and fall in love with. There's just one problem. Burbank didn't want this to happen. But today I thought it would be fun to look at why maybe, just maybe, that wasn't a bad thing. And it turned out to be a good thing for everyone. The original entrance of Mickey Mouse Park would be far behind me. But you would come into the park from this direction. Highway wasn't here. And you would literally go through a carnival area, it had a hub, it had an attraction that looked like Rivers of America with a steamship from Missouri going around it. A Native American village. It had a lot of the things that we got at Disneyland. But as I'm walking here, it's hard to think what would it have been like if this would have happened. Would this inspired other smaller parks to pop up as a franchise all around the country? Would they have done this and then said, we've got to do something bigger and go down to Anaheim? How this would have changed the history of Disneyland, no one will ever quite know, because we only know the history that we got. And it's a little bit sad this year, having no Disneyland on its anniversary, which is why I wanted to come out here and just remind everybody that everything happens for a reason. We got the park that the future deserved. We got the park that's created all these memories and all of our love affairs because that's the way that it was supposed to happen. Walt could have been discouraged that they said no and shot down his dream of the Mickey Mouse Park that would eventually become so big they would name it Disneyland. But he didn't give up. He had a bigger, more ambitious plan. And that's the one we all benefited from. Yeah, it can feel heartbreaking, but it's also, for a lot of us, made us realize just how lucky we are to have any Disneyland at all. These two buildings really symbolize the beginning of the Disney Empire. The stories they were able to tell through animation were stories like nobody had ever seen before. And then over here on the ABC building, kind of represents live action, storytelling with actors, the documentaries, the characters that they made in the real world. That was the first two building blocks of the company. This, live entertainment, would become the third, and the one that honestly I'm the most obsessed with. It's interesting to think just how different Disneyland would be, the world would be, how entertainment would be if this was the home and he got told yes. So for every time somebody tells you no, remember, they're actually just opening up a door for another reality where even though they told you no, you and your heart can still say yes. So due to this tunnel, we can actually go on the other side of the highway, which is great because the park would have gone right where I'm walking. The border was the back of the LA River. It It's so surreal walking through this land and just thinking about all of the possibilities that could have happened right here. And it's also bizarre to think, why has this land never been claimed? Did they tell Walt no and say, well, we missed out on Disneyland. We can't let anybody build anything else there. It'd be a travesty. They actually used the LA River as one of the excuses why they said no. You know when you want to do something and your parents or your teacher or your business partner will give you some sort of crazy idea or explanation? Just tell me that you don't want to do it. They were worried that people at the park would want to jump in the LA River. The man was a visionary, and his vision changed all of our lives. And he was far from perfect. None of us are. But what I choose to celebrate is how Disneyland, for 65 years now, has created this place where each of us want to go to escape and to get away. And would that have been the same if it was in Burbank, on the backside of the Hollywood Hills, inside of America's second biggest city, Los Angeles? Is there something special about going down to Orange County, where everything's a bit smaller? It had to feel like a true escape in '55 to drive out to Orange County, to go to the city of Anaheim that nobody really lived in. That probably made Disneyland already feel like an oasis, like an escape to get away. When I came to Disneyland as an adult for the first time, I was skeptical. I thought, no way could something this small give an experience like you get out in Orlando with that much space. But I was blown away that the efficiency of Disneyland, the charm of Disneyland, how it really feels like its own living, breathing little city, made me realize that it was possibly the most magical of all of the parks, because it was the one that Walt had built. It was the only one that Walt would ever live to go to. And I think there's something about that visionary having that heavy hand of creativity to fully flesh out his vision and his dream. So hey, 2020 is for sure a bum out of a year. So many things have been taken away from us. Maybe your graduation, maybe your prom, maybe your job. Unfortunately, I hope not. Maybe one of your loved ones. But the one thing we can't let 2020 take from us is our hope, our creativity. And I thought coming out to this space of land, where someone as great as Walt Disney was told, no, you can't do what you want to do. Your idea doesn't work. And there were a lot of people in his life that didn't think Disneyland was a great idea. But he pushed forward and he made it happen. And folks telling him no, I don't think he'll argue with me, only made his vision and his project even better. So what I say to you is, try to let 2020 inspire you to make the better version of whatever it is that you're trying to make. Let this be the year that told you no, and you looked it back in the face and said, all right, I appreciate that, because I know I can do better. I know my plans will allow me to make something bigger. Thank you. Thank you for telling me no. Because now, nothing can stop me. I've got the ABC building
up behind me. And I'm basically walking on this trail up to where the corner of the property would be. And I have to say, it's no Disneyland, but it is pretty big. It is a pretty nice big spot of land when you actually walk it, especially in the middle of Burbank's July weather. Apologies on the shiny forehead. So what they could have done here would have been pretty impressive. I mean, there was going to be a train on the outskirts, a boat ride, a Main Street USA area, a doll hospital. Very intrigued what that would have been like. He had so many ideas on how he was going to make a park different than everyone else's. And then by coming up with that idea, he knew, like every great creative, research, research, and more research. And talent. Bring in talented people to do the parts that you can. But Walt would comb every amusement park that he could find, both here in Southern California and around the country and even in parts of Europe, to see what other people were doing, to see how he could improve the experience. He wanted his park to be clean. He didn't want that carnival, carny type atmosphere. He was so focused on clean, family friendly, something that feels like reality, but better. Something that would play into his nostalgia for his childhood and for America, and build on that so that everyone could feel young at heart, regardless of their age. And if you loved America and its history, then you were going to love Disneyland, because it was using it as its original IP. Right around in here would have been the back corner of Mickey Mouse Park, which means all of the distance I traveled would have been part of the park. I love the park, its sounds, its smells, its foods, but I love the community more. And I miss my community of friends. A bunch of guys not too far off from my age that would get together once, twice a month, do a lap around the park, end up having dinner and cocktails, just talking about life and living inside of Disneyland. And I always felt that if Walt could see that there were people treating his park like a real little city, like a real little community, that he would feel accomplished, that it worked. That it was not only escapism for a vacation or for a family or for a one-time visit, but it was escapism from a reality. But once Disneyland and your friends there becomes your reality, it's a different kind of the real world. A real world that's a little bit more perfect. Everybody's a little bit more on their best behavior. I think you'd be happy to know that Disneyland did evolve, not into an amusement park, but into a real little perfect little town. So just think, if this did become the home of Disneyland, what would all of this property, backside of the Hollywood Hills, what would that look like? Would this be covered with hotels and adjacent experiences? Would this be land that people would want to build homes on to get to see free fireworks nightly? Would Disneyland elevated this area? Or would it have brought it down a notch? It's hard to say. He had such a great idea. But I think the thing to really take from it is he pushed forward. And you could do the same. And maybe the reason why nothing sits here because this land was destined to just be a reminder of failed plans that can motivate you to move on and to do something bigger and better. A better version of yourself, a better version of your plan. I hope you enjoyed seeing this piece of land. I hope I helped you maybe think about what it could have been like for the Disneyland ball to bounce the other way and for this to be the park. But I hope this also helps you put into perspective of we have so much more than what we don't have. So maybe when you think about this being your 2020 and Disneyland being your future, maybe that might inspire you to know that this is a moment. It's not exactly fun, but a moment that you get to choose how you write your own future. I thought it would be important to come here and remind us all, friends, don't focus on what you don't have. Focus on what you do have. And even though we can't get there at the moment, each of us have memories, magical days, dreams come true that we've all made out of Disneyland. We'll get back there soon, and I hope to see you there. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this trip. Live the magic every day. And don't stop believing in the magic. It's everywhere if you just know where to look.